Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
Well, Denise Richards has found herself kind of between a rock and a hard place here. She is getting divorced, and her husband is asking for loot. And when he wants loot, he has receipts on what they have been spending as a couple, and it is shocking.
Absolutely eye-popping. But Aaron Pfeiffer's filed for divorce from Denise on Monday, and it does seem like this was a sudden decision, although they've talked about divorce in recent months. We'll get to that in a second, but Aaron filed on Monday. He says the date of separation,
4th of July.
July 4th. So literally,
the first day he could file.
As soon as the court was open, he ran to court, filed this divorce, and wants spousal support. Now, they had just, on her reality show, I think it was about 4 months ago, there was an episode that aired. I don't know when it taped, but they actually talked about the possibility of divorce. But it's much different from what happened on Monday. This is what they said.
I'll never get divorced, even if we hate each other.
It's not easy being married to me. And
it is not. And she said it. And yes, that's true.
On many levels, it's not easy. But
that's it. I'm done.
Yeah, I'm never getting divorced again.
Yeah.
Even if we hate each other, I'm not
we just have different homes or something.
Fine.
But we're not going to hate each other.
We have enough homes, but yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, honey.
Love you, baby.
Well, he never said
When he said
me neither.
When he said I'm done, maybe she took it as
I'll never get married again.
I'll never get divorced
He meant,
again.
I'm done. And not only did he mean I'm done, but we're about to show you the itemization he made. This wasn't done over the weekend. He's
clearly been thinking about it.
He's been working on it.
Right.
This didn't just come up.
So because he's asking for spousal support, he included in the divorce, here's what our expenses are.
Which means this is the
lifestyle
to which I've
become
become
accustomed. Exactly. Now, he claims that Denise is making $250,000 a month. That is based, he said, on her TV show, brand deals.
And OnlyFans.
He says he currently has no income, so she's got to pay. Here's what their monthly expenses. Monthly, clothes, $20,000. Rent, $18,000. Meals, eating out, $15,000.
Whoa!
Another $15,000 on entertainment. Now, this one I don't understand. $10,000 on groceries.
If you're eating out for $15,000, what are you buying $10,000 of groceries for?
Is the $25,000 of food?
It's crazy. I mean,
nuts. And $8,000 on utilities,
which is also crazy. So it adds up to more than $100,000 a month, which means they're basically they're not saving anything because half of that goes to taxes. So they're at zero.
Unless the $250,000 is after taxes.
So,
but we don't know.
But first of all, if you're doing OnlyFans, why are you spending $20,000 on clothes every month?
Okay, dude. What's your point? What's your point?
I got to go back to that show clip where Denise is saying, I'll never get divorced again. So we were making calls on this all day yesterday, and we're having a really hard time getting anyone close to them to tell us what actually happened, what caused this divorce. The person that I spoke to, the only thing that they would say, and this is someone very close to Denise, was, I had no idea this was coming. I am completely blindsided. And this is someone that is in her day-to-day life. So you have to think he was working on this behind the scenes by himself and most likely blindsided her by this filing. Something happened.
Something probably happened that triggered him to go, but you're right. This seems like he's been
I got to say,
thinking about it
when
for
you
quite some
look
time.
at that itemization, that's something that wasn't written up on Sunday.
You didn't get that breakdown.
He did this before, so he must have been thinking about this. I mean, and if it's all filed and ready to go and everything else, he just told his lawyer Monday, pull the trigger.
He filed it himself. He can't afford a lawyer. He filed it himself.
That's true.
Yeah, he didn't have a lawyer.
Anyway,
that would blow his whole point of. He had to file it himself. That's his whole point, is I don't have any income.
This is, by the way, he's probably entitled to some spousal support if he's making no income and she's making that. But, we have seen this. We saw this most recently with Kevin Costner and Christina Baumgartner.
Yeah.
Where I think it was $250,000 a year. She said they would spend a month. that they were spending.
Yeah.
And that got whittled and whittled and whittled down where she got $60,000.
Yeah.
So it ain't going to be.
It wasn't as ridiculous when she put in those expenses because Kevin Costner.
Some of those expenses were ridiculous.
Yes, they were, but also everyone would go, Denise Richards, you don't expect to be making Kevin Costner money, right?
No.
So.
But even relatively, 15,000 on restaurants, and then entertainment on top of that. What do they have time to do? I mean, they're going to dinner and they're entertaining, and she's on OnlyFans. Can you
imagine how long they're in the grocery store if they're spending $10,000 a month?
And why are they in the grocery store if they're eating out every night? I mean,
it doesn't add up.
Sorry.
I'm Kristen from Los Angeles, and yeah, I think it's much easier said than done to stay married to somebody that you hate or who hates you. This was a very extravagant lifestyle that Denise was bankrolling for them. $20,000 on clothes is crazy, but imagine how much more it would be if Aaron got a job.
Yeah, and Aaron, that shirt's not... Anyway, we are going to move on.
Yes, let's do that. To something that President Trump seems to want to go away, but is not. The conversation about Jeffrey Epstein and the DOJ's declaration this week that he did kill himself, that no one murdered him in prison, and there is no client list.
So, they talk about the president having a bully pulpit. Well, the word bully seems to apply in the cabinet room today when a reporter asked Trump, or asked Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, about the discrepancy where she said there is a list, and now she says there's not a list. So Donald Trump decided to jump in.
Yeah, sure. Did I just interrupt? Sure. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? So that is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that.
So, I mean, she's just sort of dismissing it, but that is, the question was about the client list.
And it was very specific. So she's now turned it into the file.
And look, I get the conspiracy theory, and I get why people would make an issue about that. She can't act like, and maybe it is completely innocent. Maybe she did say, and she was referring to the files. But you've got to know, if you're the Attorney General and you're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, that each word matters, because people think that there's something
Charles,
being covered up here.
There's one word that is the most relevant word, and it's the word list.
Right.
Because people have been talking about this now for years. So, look, let's just play
her point is,
here's how it went down in Fox.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients? Will that really happen?
She nods.
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
So have you seen anything that you said, oh my gosh?
Not yet.
So her point is, the list, if there was a list, would have been in the file, and she was referring to the file that was on her desk.
And she said, I never looked inside.
That's the most generous interpretation,
That's so
right?
hard to believe, though. You're telling me that this list that's been talked about for years, that everybody thinks has all of these powerful people, and she doesn't take a peek if it's sitting on your... I mean, come on. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, obviously. I think we know kind of where I stand on a lot of these things, but that's tough, Pam Bondi.
Yeah, it's...
So there's a list that I'll get around to looking at some point.
Wouldn't that be the first thing you would open and look at? Like, maybe I'm just curious. It's crazy to believe. It's beyond, like, any sort of common sense.
By the way, I know that President Trump very clearly, as you saw in the cabinet meeting, wants this to go away and doesn't want there to be any conversation. His former buddy and now nemesis, Elon Musk, is not letting it go either.
This is hilarious.
This is what Elon posted right after the cabinet meeting. They arrested and killed Peanut, but have not even tried to file charges against anyone on the Epstein client list. Government is deeply broken with the Jim meme. More squirrels and raccoons have been arrested.
And it's true. Remember, Peanut was the squirrel that
there was a raccoon that was
and the
living
raccoon
there also.
that got euthanized as well. Elon's funny. I mean, that's a good one.
Oh, now you like Elon again.
I said that's
No, we're just saying it's funny.
That's a good one. I think
Just saying it was funny.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Matt from Ottawa, Ontario. And I just want to say, guys, in regards to this Epstein list, this is becoming a huge problem. But if they want to say, let it go, nothing more to see here, I think that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. Someone's lying. We've been given conflicting information, lukewarm transparency at best. So, yeah, this has become a huge problem. And I don't think people are going to let it go that easy.
No, they're not going to let it go because they believe that the people who are being covered, that the cover-up is about powerful people, some in government, some not, but that's why people aren't going to let it go.
Right. Okay, we are going to take a break.
All right, when we come back, oh boy, Blake Lively is about to have her day, or at least Justin Baldoni's lawyers are going to have a day with Blake Lively. We'll tell you about the deposition. It is going down. Well, it is here. The moment we actually thought wouldn't happen, right? No. That they would back down, that Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni would back off of this once they each had to sit for depositions. Some things have changed since then, and I think that's why the news is that Blake Lively is now scheduled for her deposition. It's going to happen next week, and you know that Brian Friedman, Justin Baldoni's lawyer, is just chomping at the bit for this.
He said he wanted to do it in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, yeah. That's not gonna happen. There will be no pay-per-view, but it is gonna happen. And I think because of the judge's decision to throw out Justin Baldoni's lawsuit, that Blake Lively and her team are feeling pretty confident about this.
They do not want to sit for this deposition. This deposition is steeped in peril for Blake, because there are two elements to a lawsuit of celebrity client. One is to win the case, and the second is what is their career in life going to look like when the trial or the case is over. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot here about betrayal, involving Taylor Swift, involving her own conduct on Gossip Girl and on this movie. And this is going to be a tough deposition for her.
So we spoke to both sides about this just last month. Brian Friedman, Justin's attorney, as I said, very anxious to grill Blake Lively. And Blake's attorney, Michael Gottlieb, said, bring it on. So here's what they had to say about it.
She's on a false victory tour, and she's afraid of the truth. And the truth is, going to be shown through depositions, which is what's going to be next. I've noticed her deposition. It's set in June. We're going to see if she's going to appear at that deposition or not. And we're going to proceed forward with the case. And we're going to show that there was no sexual harassment. And we're going to show that there was no smear campaign.
Of course she's going to sit for a deposition. She's a plaintiff in the case. So she's going to be deposed. Justin Baldoni is going to be deposed. Steve Sarowitz is going to be deposed. Melissa Nathan is going to be deposed. Those depositions will take place between now and when discovery closes in August. And we're itching to get into them.
You know who else could be deposed is Taylor Swift, because she was inserted in this courtesy of Blake Lively. So that's going to be really interesting.
I think, did Brian Friedman say that they're not going to depose her? Didn't he come out and say that at some point?
I think he kind of like skirted it.
Right.
So she could absolutely be deposed. I think this is the nuclear option.
Right.
If he decides to do it. But the other thing is, these depositions are almost always videotaped.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If she gets deposed, this is going to be the best TV or video ever that comes out, because you're going to see all the text messages, all the interactions, and they always get leaks. Kanye West, Justin Bieber's, Lil Wayne's, we've seen all of these. So we're definitely going to see Blake Lively's, and this is going to be way worse for her if we actually see what goes on in the deposition and what she actually said in her text messages.
Yeah, and I think it's going to go beyond the text messages, too. I mean, it goes into, look, I mean...
There's going to be a bunch of questions that are not
directly relevant.
Right.
And, what happens is they have a magistrate. Normally they don't, but I'm certain they're going to have a magistrate sitting there, because her lawyer is going to object to a lot of the questions that his lawyer asks, and then the magistrate's going to have to make a decision on whether Blake has to answer or not, and then sometimes they'll say, I'm not going to answer, and they appeal it. So this could become a long, drawn-out thing.
It's interesting that the deposition of Justin is not as critical anymore because his lawsuit's been thrown out. This is more
Well, no, it is critical because she's making allegations against him, so that becomes a centerpiece for Blake Lively, which is asking him those questions. In a way, his deposition is even more important now.
But what are there's more as far as embarrassing things that could come out?
Well, no, it's about the core of the case.
No, I get it. Yes, as far as the case, I get it, that they both have to sit and they're both going to have to answer questions about the case.
Right.
But the PR part of it is all these other questions. And, you know, what does he have?
Well, it's whether there was a smear campaign. But I agree with you. That's more the publicist than it is him.
Right.
But as to the actual case, which is the harassment allegation, that's the core of the case that they want to depose him on.
And you heard Michael Gottlieb also bring up the fact that Steve Sarowitz, who is the head of Wayfair Studios, that he's also good. It's almost like they're both saying, yep, bring in all these heavy hitters, and just so you know, they're all going to be grilled. Is there a chance that there is a last-minute settlement?
Oh, when you said it's going to happen, I was going to say not so fast, because it's called brinksmanship. You take it right to the edge.
I'm listening to what Michael Gottlieb said, and he's like, oh yeah, Steve Sarowitz is going to be in there, and Justin Baldoni is going to be in there, and Brian Friedman's barking, yep, and Blake Lively, I'm going to ask her everything.
The problem with this is if her lawyer goes to his lawyer, or his lawyer goes to her lawyer, the person on the receiving end is going to hold a news conference and say, they
came to us.
They're the ones who came to us. They are admitting weakness. And that's the career part of it that's dicey.
Hi, this is Brooke, Scottsdale, Arizona. And I used to love Blake Lively. I think all of this has put a sour taste in everybody's mouth and kind of like the definition of going too far. I don't think at this point anything will help her case because very early on, most of us kind of knew what her angle was to take Justin Baldoni down. So in my opinion, it's kind of just straight up cringe.
Okay, we're going to take a break.
All right, when we come back, a lie detector test failed by Gary Coleman's widow. Now, this goes way back. You know, Gary Coleman died back in 2010. Always been questions about what his wife's involvement might have been. Well, she sat for a lie detector test and failed. Wait until you hear the questions and her reaction to the results.
TMZ's got every freaking thing. Big celebs, big stories, big events.
Justin Timberlake made Portland kids' dream come true by joining a bike bus ride. And they always listen to Justin Timberlake.
Cry me a river when they fall.
It's TMZ.
Anytime someone sits for a lie detector test and you can actually watch it happen, it's just good television.
It's fascinating.
It's really fascinating, even though typically it is not. Has it ever been admissible?
Yes. In some states, in some civil cases, they allow it. In California, for example, they don't. But there are some states.
Well, gotta hand it to A&E. They somehow convinced Gary Coleman's ex-wife, his widow, Shannon Price, to sit for a lie detector test for a new show they have called Lie Detector, Truth or Deception, and was asked about her involvement in Gary's 2010 death. Remember, he had fallen. I'm trying to remember where he was when he took this fall, but there were always questions. People always thought, well, wait a second, where was Shannon? And there had been some alleged domestic violence between them. Church wanted to clear her name. That is not how it worked out.
I asked you the following relevant questions on this test. Did you physically cause Gary's fall? You answered no. Right. I also asked you, did you physically cause Gary to fall that day? And you answered no. And the results are, you failed that exam with deception indicated to those relevant questions. Let Let me say that again. You failed the exam regarding Gary's fall. What are your thoughts?
That's false.
There's two things I know for sure, Shannon. One, you were not completely honest with me yesterday during this polygraph session. And two, the other thing I know that's 100% certain is that there is more to this story that hasn't been told.
My recollection is that if you get a -6 or worse, that's when it becomes deception. But there are gradations to the deception. So we don't know what number she fell on here, but he's saying that she was clearly past that minus number. I believe it's 6. At least it was when I saw it.
Yeah, so as you imagine, Shannon is not happy about the way this all went down. Her people told us we were extremely disappointed with the overall experience of both the polygraph testing and dealing with A&E. Many promises were made and not kept. They were not specific. The testing situation was unfair and very uncomfortable, and the testing was performed non-verbally, which I should have refused.
Well, that's interesting. So they gave her in writing?
So Devin was talking to them. What they had said is that she, at some point, was complaining about a light in her face, and they said, look, we need the light, it's television, and that she then suggested she was going to put her eyes down, and that she would just answer with her hand up for yes and her hand down for no. But we've also seen the full episode, and she does answer on camera verbally. So that nonverbal thing doesn't seem to hold up.
The more shocking thing to me is when he tells her that she failed it, her reaction seems to be just, oh, well, that's false.
Yeah.
She seems very not concerned at all that they just said you may have contributed to the death of your husband.
Not contributed. I mean, it sounds like caused.
You know what the appropriate response would have been? She should have said, "What you talking about?"
Oh God.
Oh, Eric. That would have been
Eric.
Awesome.
Oh my
actually,
God.
If she did. What you talking about? What you talking about, polygraph?
Hey guys, I'm Joy Daly calling from New York, and I think the fact that Gary Coleman's wife flunked this lie detector test, it's a clear sign that she absolutely has something to do with his death, and it's a damn shame that after 10 years, they're just revisiting this because of its...
Well, the police are not revisiting. This is for a show. We have no idea if this triggers anything. I don't know, but it's interesting.
It is very, very interesting.
Okay, we are going to take a break.
All right, when we come back, we've seen all sorts of reactions to the Diddy verdict. And were they appropriate? Are they understandable? Does the black community feel different about this from other communities? We are going to get into all the reactions, appropriate or inappropriate, depending on your stance, with our good friend D.L. Hugley when we come back. Welcome back to TMZ Live. And when the Diddy verdict came in, much like the OJ verdict, the reactions are like another story. I mean, there's the verdict and whether you agree with it or not.
But the Diddy celebration has way more baby oil.
Way more baby oil. There was probably more louder, immediate reactions to OJ because the entire country was watching, and we didn't have TV for Diddy's. But these celebrations that we saw outside the court and other places were just wild. Like, as you mentioned, baby oil being sprayed around on people.
And we should say that just set the stage, prosecution got its ass kicked in this case. And even though Diddy got convicted in the Mann Act, they never would have prosecuted him for that. And I think he's going to get a year, maximum 2 years. And with time served, he should be out within a year, I think. I mean, I really believe that's what's going to happen.
Well, there'll also probably be interesting reactions to that whenever that happens. But, you know, people watch those celebrations, and some people understood it. Some people felt like that's disgusting. And
because there are a lot of people who wanted him to go down.
Right. And even if he didn't get convicted, there were still things we found out about him during this trial that people feel very strongly about.
The video.
Yeah, and well, we found out about that before the trial even started. So, what's fueling people's reactions here? Let's get into it. Our good buddy D.L. Hugley joining us to discuss the reactions. DL, how you doing, man? How was your holiday weekend?
I'm great, man. I listen. I ain't trusted Puffy since he came up with Pizza Rock. I mean, anybody who mix pizzas and vodka together.
I kind of agree with you on that.
He went from Puff Daddy to Diddy to P. Any man changed his name many times has done a lot of stuff wrong. Where I'm from, we call that an alias. So,
right.
I think that it's clear that Puffy wasn't charged for the things he did. He was charged in this vague, amorphous. Even at the judge, even during the trial, you could have a hard time. You could see he was having a hard time buying it, and I think it shows two things. Money, will buy a great defense. I think if he's charged and he has a public defender, he's convicted. But you can have a lawyer that does exactly what lawyers are supposed to do. And the other thing about it is, he literally, and I'm no fan. I didn't like what happened. I think, but they didn't charge him for domestic abuse. They charged him for all of these terms that they just couldn't prove, and they overcharged him.
What about the celebration? I mean, I remember there was a lot of controversy around the celebration with OJ. What about this celebration?
I think that there are people who are morally bankrupt. I say that all the time. I think that there's no cause, even if. Puffy, wasn't convicted of the most serious charges. He still whooped a woman in front of everybody. He wasn't charged for that, and the feds wouldn't charge him for that. Obviously, the feds wouldn't be involved in something like that. But it speaks to who we are as a society. Like, who could celebrate, even if he's not guilty of the crimes charged, but he is a horrible dude. I get it. He's a horrible dude, and I think that. There are a lot of horrible people who celebrate horrible things.
But you remember, DL, that Diddy's defense raised the issue of race. I mean, even before the trial, said that this was a case of the government going after a successful black man. And so I think that narrative certainly was in the minds of people who were probably rooting for Diddy, despite the fact that he'd done these horrible things.
I can root for a man to get justice. That's different than celebrating this verdict. They're two different things. I can hold two eyes in my hand. They clearly charged him and overcharged him, and I think there was a racial component. There's no denying that. But to celebrate when he's done a lot of horrible things to a lot of horrible people, I think you can draw the line there. You can be a defense attorney and have to do your job. That don't mean you celebrate it. I think he did some horrible things. Obviously, the prosecutor, and I think that there was a racial component. I think that they did overcharge. I think that obviously you can see that, and I think, but to me, to celebrate it, like he wasn't convicted of the most serious of charges, but we still found out a lot of stuff that is amoral, and I think it speaks to a lot of the way a lot of people handle things.
Yeah.
At whatever point that Diddy gets out of prison. Does he have a career? Can he have a concert that that people are gonna
produce music?
He can probably produce music.
Infamy is better than fame, and you know that we have a whole society. Infamy is a lot better than fame.
OJ.
Yep, infamy is better than fame. So, and this, when I was younger and I watched the OJ trial, I was it was such a passionate thing for me. But later on, I believed OJ did it, and I was very sorry that I celebrated the fact that he'd done that, that he'd done it. And I was, I had a different mentality and I had a different purview. But for me, when I can hold the idea that the judicial system has been prejudicial toward black men, and that man hurt a woman and several women or several people that look just like us. So I don't find that a reason to celebrate. And I think the people that abetted him are probably, or would abet him, are the people who are celebrating, because those are the kind of things they would do. Mm-hmm. And I think it says a lot about it. It really does. It says a lot about our society. Even the cruel things. Some people saw the video and didn't think that he did. Saw the video and didn't think that that he did anything wrong. And it's just it tells you who we are as a society. It does. It really tells you that there.
God, I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong on that, because the way I understood it was I never heard anybody support it. I think they said that's not the case. Is a California case in the statute of limitations. He should have been prosecuted and he wasn't. But God, I hope you're wrong. That people supported
that. We should switch timelines.
That would be really interesting.
Did you really?
That would be really
honestly,
interesting, actually.
I'm really fascinated. You saw people saying what he did was okay?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes. Yes.
Honestly?
Yes.
It
Yes.
is out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
That's not even shocking.
Shocking to me. I can't believe that.
We got to figure out this timeline swap. I think that would be really entertaining.
Well, we should do that for a week, DL.
No, I don't want your channel for a week. Maybe a couple of days, baby.
Oh man, great, DL. Good
Always
talking to you.
good to see y'all, man.
And obviously, people can check you out on your radio show, the DL Hugley Show, airing weekdays. So check that out, and we will talk to you next week, man.
All right, man. All right, y'all take care. All right.
All right.
Real quickly, they had like a 30-second hearing today in the Diddy case.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to keep the same date for
Scheduled
sentencing,
for
October
3rd, yeah.
So we are going to take a break.
All right. When we come back, UFOs. We're going to be joined by our friend Jeremy Corbel. There is a new video. I don't know what it is. Jeremy has looked into this very closely. He's going to be here to dig into this and also figure out, is the Trump administration actually being as open and transparent as they said they would be about UFOs? There was a lot of buzz in Washington, D.C. over the last few years about UFOs, or UAPs, as they are called now. And we saw the congressional hearings. But how much is the government actually doing? It's like after all that, the hearings subsided.
There's still, honestly, a lot of covering up. There just is a lot of covering up. And that doesn't mean,
in particular, I'm curious
that doesn't mean there are aliens. It means we want answers. And even though they had these committee hearings, there are still people in D.C. that just don't want us to know what the reality is.
I'm curious how, if anything has changed with the latest administration. They've now been in for 6 months. How are they doing on all this? Joining us to discuss this, and by the way, also to discuss a video you might have seen of what appears to be a flying saucer in Asia, is our good friend Jeremy Corbel. And Jeremy, welcome back, who obviously hosted our series that is available right now on Tubi, UFO Revolution, seasons 1 and 2 available. Jeremy, welcome back. How are we doing on this now with this new administration? Have you seen any change?
Yeah, jump right into the big question. It's what everybody wants to know. We were told that there's going to be transparency on the UAP issue, and a lot of people like myself and many others have been fighting to bring firsthand whistleblowers in front of Congress, open congressional hearings, to tell the American public about what they know and have been directly exposed to regarding the UFO or UAP topic. We've had some successes. David Grush testified to even biologics within some of these craft. Biologics, you can understand what that means. That means beings piloting these that were non-human. How are we doing? Well, we have the opportunity through a new task force under Trump that's supposed to be about transparency, run by Representative Luna, to have new hearings. I have the direct first-hand whistleblowers that would pack that hearing, and the American public could hear from them. So how it's going, that all depends. Are we going to have another hearing?
Well, we've had 6 months. So is there any indication that, because look, I know after that first big hearing a year or so ago, there was a lot of hope and then a lot of frustration that there was still that kind of secrecy and a wall. Has the wall come? Is there a Reagan saying, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall" in Donald Trump?
If Congress doesn't do their job, then we are going to do it for them. George Knapp and I have already recorded with first-hand whistleblowers, and we are going to put it out. If they don't see it first in Congress, in front of the American public, in an open congressional hearing, then they're going to hear it on our programming, Weaponized Podcast.
What about this video? I mean, check this video out, everybody. I mean, this is, again, over Asia. And
I think this is Afghanistan and near the Pakistan border. Is that correct, Jeremy?
That's correct.
It looks like there's a heat shield on this thing, because you see it light up at some point. So, I mean, is there any sense of that's what I'm talking about?
Oh, what's around it? Yeah.
Yeah. What is this?
Let me explain this very clearly. George Knapp and I obtained and released, for the first time in history, a circular by angle of observation, so some would say a sphere, but our military, our intelligence communities labeled this a UAP on November 23rd, 2020, when it was passively captured by a reconnaissance platform. They labeled it a UAP. It's within the intelligence community investigations. They have not come to a determination. They also labeled it DISC. So that's a little different than sphere, a disc. Like you said, I mean, it looks like the movie Nope, where they had that disc flying around. It's pretty amazing. But I think what's really important is with the file, it was described by our own intelligence agencies who've been investigating UAP, that this was a UAP navigating through the clouds. This is not a flare. This is not a lens artifact. This is an object that has no traditional propulsion. You do not see plumes of heat flying out the back when it goes forward, just like you'd have from rockets or something like that. Now, I don't know what this is, but it appears to me in the definition by our own military to be a UAP or a UFO. Now, just to be very clear in the footage you're seeing, people have said, oh, we AI enhanced it. No, 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 no. Hold up. I provided to the public the 3 core videos directly by our Department of Defense, directly by the intelligence agencies studying this. That's what was provided to George Knapp and myself, and that's what we obtained and released to the public. When you see it a little bit more blue, it's an enhanced contrast and that sort of thing. And we even wrote that on the screen. If you look at the core original footage, that is our military's own looking at this image and enhancement. Now, the white ring around it, I don't know if that's an artifact of the thermal signature, the heat signature, or if that's an artifact of the enhancement that our military intelligence did on the footage. Remember, UAP is directly tied to NHI, non-human intelligence, and that was the bill that Senator Rounds and Senator Schumer put onto legislation and tried to get it passed. It's coming a 3rd time now in the big, beautiful bill thing. They're gonna try to put the disclosure language in there. They said, I think it was like 27 times, non-human intelligence. If they knew what this was, then they would have labeled it as such.
We can't figure out what it is in the air. That's what we know. And that doesn't, again, for everybody listening, it doesn't mean aliens from outer space.
It means literally what it says.
Not accounted for. Right. We can't explain it, and it doesn't seem to align with human technology, I think, Jeremy, is what you're saying.
It actually does not, matter of fact, align with human-made technology. And I know we're dancing around this, and I'm not making other claims, but Senate wrote it. I didn't write it. Senate wrote it. Non-human intelligence. That's not me saying it. That is your legislators saying that. Now, I hope that this Disclosure Act does get passed, maybe 3rd time's a charm. The American public deserve to know the truth, which has been hidden from them, about NHI, non-human intelligence, and UAP, which basically means UFO.
Jeremy, thank you for all your efforts. We know we'll be talking to you, and look forward to any information that you find out about this latest UAP or any others that come up. Thanks so much for being with us.
There's a lot more coming. I promise you that, and you can pay attention to that. There's a lot more coming visually soon.
We promise you we will pay attention. Thanks, Jeremy.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, we are going to take a break. When we come back, this just in, Janet Jackson has a new man. We are going to show you who he is, and he is famous.
There's a little something going on.
Buckle up, party people, because the TMZ After Dark Tour has hit Hollywood. Get ready for a 2-hour rager on wheels with the DJ dropping beats as we hit Sunset and Hollywood Boulevard, baby. We see the hottest restaurants, sickest clubs, and stop at banging bars along the way. The festivities kick off every weekend from the Hard Rock Cafe at 7:30 p.m. So head to TMZTour.com to book your tickets for the TMZ After Dark Tour. It's gonna be epic.
This is a pretty exciting coupling, if it is a coupling.
Oh, it is. They're holding hands, dude. They're holding hands.
You ever hold hands with a friend?
They're holding hands. They're going to a play. It's a big
Janet Jackson and Maxwell showed up at an event. It was a cabaret.
The 1500th show.
For cabaret in London. And they walked in holding hands, which, of course, made everyone think, wait, is this actually happening?
Of course.
Okay, all right. Now I'm with you because it's not just side by side, but she was ahead of him holding his hand. That's different. Friends don't do that. You're bringing someone along with you?
I love her.
Yeah.
I just love her. I'm so excited.
I am. All right. Interesting. They'd been spotted before together, but it never really seemed like they'd seemed more friendly in the past. She's been divorced since 2017. He's also single. I don't know.
I'm going to so bite my tongue. I got something that would make you so mad, but I'm not going to say it. But I'll tell you after. It's really funny. I think you know.
I already know what you're... God, I hate you.
Can't say.
Janae from Atlanta, and listen, we would love for Janet Jackson and Maxwell to be together. Are they? Who knows? They've been pictured together in the past, just like you all previously said. It can be our fairy godmother, our fairy godfather. Who knows? But one thing is for sure, you better believe those pictures are smelling like cocoa butter and black excellence, okay?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What else do you guys want to talk about?
Ash from Atlanta, Georgia. I say sayonara, Aaron. Happy Independence Day, Denise. I didn't like him on The Housewives. He's controlling. He doesn't add anything. Now we get to see Denise maybe date on her reality show, and I am so here for that era.
She can't afford to date if he gets this money.
She's got to amp up her OnlyFans. Couple more pics. She's fine.
There you go. Okay, one more.
DC, California. I'm talking about the Epstein files, and nothing screams louder that Trump was on the Epstein list. This was actually so disturbing and unprofessional that he would lash out to a reporter and discredit all of Jeffrey Epstein's victims. I'm actually disgusted, and I believe he is gaslighting all of us.
Well, he's not talking about the victims. What everybody's talking about is this list. And
to her point, for the victims to get justice, they want to see everyone who was involved.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true.
Taken down.
Okay, we're going to take a break.
All right. When we come back, Shawn Mendes still celebrating the 4th. We will show you how he's feeling patriotic on certain parts of his body when we come back.
Shawn Mendes opened his door at his home only to see a cameraman as he picked up his Erewhon groceries, which may explain Denise spending $10,000 a month because it's super expensive.
If that's how she's eating, yeah.
So number one, you had to know there was a camera there, right? I mean,
what?
But that's okay. Yeah. But number two,
the new ink.
He's got some new ink on his chest. It's an eagle. And,
so you say.
And so the staff kind of looked into this today. Even though they're small tattoos, he is tatted up. He must have 15 tattoos.
Right. He's not a sleeve guy. He's not doing all.
He's not a sleeve guy.
But he's got a lot of tattoos
all over his body.
I know you say it's an eagle, and I don't know where you got your ornithology degree, but
you don't think it's an eagle?
It doesn't necessarily have to be. And
well, let me just say that the tattoo.
Do you know what kind of eagle?
I do.
What kind of eagle?
I do not, but I know it's an eagle because the tattoo artist actually said it was an eagle back in April.
Okay.
When he posted something.
Interesting.
So he called it an
so this
eagle.
wasn't for in celebration.
No, it was. But we hadn't seen it until now.
Oh.
So he unveiled it to be patriotic.
I'm glad he got his groceries shirtless.
We'll see you tomorrow.